Welcome to Journeys Through Sociology, a series of interviews with presidents of the International Sociological Association. I'm Lalebe Bahanyan, and today our guest is Margaret Archer, who was president of the ISA from 1986 to 1990. Professor Archer completed her PhD at the London School of Economics, after which she went on to do postdoctoral work at the Sorbonne in Paris, beginning what would become a lifetime of involvement in French sociology. She taught for many years at the University of Warwick and is currently the director of the Center for Social Ontology at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, where she's joining us now. Prior to becoming the ISA's first and only woman president, Professor Archer also served as the president of the ISA's Research Committee on Education, as well as serving as editor of Current Sociology for many years. She's also a founding member of the Vatican's Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences, established in 1994 to advise the Pope on Catholic social policy. She has authored countless books and publications and is particularly well known for her contributions to developing critical realist social theory, serving as the co-director of the Center for Critical Realism. Thank you so much for joining us today, Professor Archer.
Good to be with you.
Thank you. So let's begin at the beginning of your own journey through sociology. What was it that initially drew you to sociology?
Well, not exactly my schooling, because in those days you couldn't take sociology. And so I went to one of those very good girls' schools and got involved in history and English, and was told by my head teacher I had a destiny to spend the rest of my days deconstructing Beowulf.
Deconstructing, I'm sorry?
Beowulf, one of those medieval texts.
Beowulf,
yeah, and that somehow seemed like not having a life. So we gave up on that one. And going on at the same time was something that was very influential. I became very involved in the campaign for nuclear disarmament and the anti-apartheid movement. And we did a lot of marching in the north of England, from coast to coast, where we tried to convert more sheep than people. And the point of that was long, long walks with people like John Rex, Peter Worsley, John Saville. I was 15 years old at the time, and these guys were great. Mind you, they had the time, and it was wet. So they told me about people like Max Weber, who, at 15, I thought his name was spelt with a V.
As I think many of us did.
John Rex soon cured me. And we talked, and they just had so much patience for this 15-year-old with, no end to her list of questions. And that was the beginning of a fascination, lifelong fascination with sociology.
So it was on these walks against nuclear armament and apartheid that you were introduced to Weber and to thinking about the social world in those ways.
Yeah. I suppose there was another influence a couple of years later. I was just lucky enough to win a UNESCO essay prize about the Treaty of Rome. And what Europe could be, what it would look like, what it would do. And that was what we had to write an essay about. Well, I don't think mine was pretty startling, though it might even have been slightly better than the way things turned out. But that was an important event because it It sort of showed that change was in the wind, that sociology was not just abstract theory, though I spent most of my life doing abstract theory, but that got me into LSE against my school's protests.
Right. So even though you have spent a lifelong career contributing to abstract theory, this commitment to that work really is grounded in these initial concerns about the
Yeah.
social world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
can I ask you, Professor Archer, you do have a very long and rich, career in sociology, doing all kinds of different work. When you look through at all of that, what are some of the challenges that you feel like have been particularly difficult, or some of the challenges that you faced either as a sociologist in your teaching, as a researcher, as a theorist?
Sure. Well, they began straight away because the mid-60s were probably the high tide of empiricism in Britain. If it moved, you measured it. If it breathed, you scaled it. And
what a great
honestly,
way of characterizing empiricism. Okay, yes, if it moves, you measure it.
oh, and we had so many ways of measuring things, the Gutmann scale and the Likert scale and every other scale that had been mathematically invented. And quite honestly, that is the only piece of work, my first British PhD, that I've ever been so ashamed of, I've never published a word of it. It produced another scale to add to our national shortage. It produced nothing worth having.
And that PhD work, it was on the educational aspirations of working class British mothers, correct? That was what you were interested in initially.
Well, I was until I started scaling it. When I think we all lost interest in it.
Yeah. So I guess the challenge of hitting the walls of empiricism and the limits of measurement as an approach to understanding the social world, that actually became for you kind of an opportunity then to launch a career of contributing to critical or critiques of those empiricist approaches to sociology, actually.
Yeah, that's kind of nice way of putting it. At the time, it felt much more like you better go back to square one. You better get out of Britain because all they do is metrification. And you better get back to where you're happy. Philosophy of social science and an approach that is broadly philosophically based.
So in your own kind of trajectory as a sociologist, transcending the national borders of British sociology was very important for you in your own development. I know you have had a lot of involvement in European and French sociology over the years.
I'm a European, yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
Well, you're a European, Margaret.
work.
You're also. I mean, one thing I was hoping to be able to ask you is, you're also, have the distinction of being the first and until this day only woman president of the ISA. And for you, what is the significance of that? And did you face any kind of challenges related to that?
None whatsoever. None whatsoever. There were challenges galore, but they weren't to do with gender. They were really to do with making the books balance and
making the books balance.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we relocated to Spain from Amsterdam during the first months of my becoming president. And Isabella Balinska, to whom the ISA owes just about everything, Isa and I struggled. And she struggled more than I struggled. Could we get the utilities connected?
Wow.
Could we get a 17-meter table out of our, one room?
Wow.
That's
fascinating. So, I mean, usually we think about the presidencies as, the contributions of a direction of a vision, but actually it was just actually holding up the institutionally, the organizational work of the ISA.
A lot too much of my time and everybody else's time we have to go back. We're talking 86, and Spain was, I would say, still in many ways a semi-developed country. It's transformed out of all recognition, but we had to deal with corruption. We had to deal with all sorts of things that messier, took far more time than they should have done, and basically subtracted from what we ought to have been doing.
And what was it that you, going into your presidency, felt that you ought to be doing? What were some of your goals for your presidency?
Well, to me, there is only one possible justification for the ISA, and that's to be international. If it's not the World Association, well, then it's just another piece of bureaucracy. And at the time, and when I first encountered it, which was actually the World Congress in '66 in Evian-les-Bains in France, which is 5 kilometers from where this is being recorded right now.
So, Professor Archer, we are sadly running out of time, but I'd like to end by asking you one final question. We've talked a lot about, your career in sociology, but if you had not become a sociologist, what else would you have liked to have done, perhaps?
Well, if I'd had perfect physical motor coordination, I would love to have been a dressage rider. But I didn't.
Oh.
And if I couldn't have done that, something like being an architect, restoration of historic domestic buildings. That sounds like fun, but I doubt if anything would have given me the same day in, day out challenge and satisfaction as doing the sociology.
Well,
no regrets.
No regrets. What a beautiful way to end today. And I really want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. It's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much, Professor Archer.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
This has been another Journey Through Sociology with Professor Margaret Archer. You can view the entire series at the website of the International Sociological Association.